Rebecca MacLean, hi, it's so great to see you again. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for coming to our event. We have an amazing event coming up on Wednesday, March 28th in Scottsdale, Arizona, in which we are going, and you're going to participate, in which we're going to help people. We're going to help men and women understand each other better in the workplace. So I'm so excited you're going to be there.
Yes, I was so excited to be invited. It should be an awesome night of really finding out kind of both sides of the coin there. And I think everybody will walk away with a lot of good tools to take back to their workplace immediately.
Absolutely. We want to, and you and I have done this before as coaches, and you're an amazing coach who I'm so grateful to have gotten to know in the last year.
Thank you.
You can share a little bit more about yourself as we get into this conversation. But, as coaches, we always want to help. We always want to provide value, and we want to give people tools and things with which they can learn and apply in their life. And we're going to do that night. And, as you've talked to me more and more recently, you've heard me talk about the importance of being able to not just get better ourselves, which is essential. And you and I talk about accountability so much, but it's really important and so helpful. We want to help people enhance their career by understanding where others are coming from, and where, I'm just going to say, I think it will help a female to understand where a man is coming from, and vice versa, a man to understand, why a woman is saying what she's saying, or not just hearing what she says, but understanding why she says it, and also the why behind what they're doing. And I just think it's going to be really invaluable. And as you and I have talked about this, we want to help people with this on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. Well, empathy is the crux of emotional intelligence, and emotionally intelligent people have a really strong ability to be able to see through other viewpoints. And it's just so important, especially when you're working closely with a group of people, for you to understand that those dynamics and where people are coming from. And you don't have to understand necessarily their background, but just to be open to the idea that they think differently. And sometimes we forget that. But I think this workshop is going to be really insightful for a lot of people to really get that perspective of where people are coming from, what their goals are, what's important to them. All of that is vital. It's absolutely vital. And I know that you doing the work that you do, teaching leadership, is this is a mainstay in your program. And for mine too, in breakthrough coaching, I help people know what their biases are, what help them understand themselves and where their own stuff comes from. Because a lot of times we don't know. We just have a reaction, or we just have something that comes up for us, and we feel put upon, or we feel offended, and we don't know why. And so that's a lot of what my work works on, is going down within and finding those personal blocks, those barriers, limiting beliefs, and bringing those up and resolving them so that those are no longer issues.
Isn't it, and it's such powerful work that you do, and so important, and isn't it amazing, regardless of whether somebody's in like a corporate environment, or they work for a nonprofit or a small business or a startup, the ability to, we live in a space where we talk so much about personal growth and development, but part of that, and you hit on the key word, is emotional intelligence and empathy and understanding and connecting with people. And I've really come to learn, especially as I've worked so much in the last year with helping people enhance their career, that yes, it starts within ourselves, and you and I are all about 100% accountability. But I know that and I think back to my corporate days too, and when I worked in several big companies, struggling at times to really understand where somebody was coming from. And you just mentioned biases, and I really believe that helping people get in touch with and be more aware of their biases towards, and it doesn't even need to be a bias that, on the outside sounds or seems really bad. It's just, right. It's just a conditioned bias that, we look at somebody, because of their background or title, they're not going to know as much as I do. Or because this person makes a little bit more money than I do, just judged or based on title, they should know more than me. These are like, right. None of that is necessarily true. So how do you help what are some of the things that you would help somebody in dealing with these biases?
Well, it's so true what you said, that it's not always something negative. It's not always, a bias towards that somebody doesn't know something. It could be what I work on is our biases towards ourselves. So a lot of people walk around with, I'm not good enough. And a lot of times it stems from childhood, something that happened, sometimes even a memory that they don't even remember. It could be something that happened in school, or it could be something that happened with a parent or a sibling or something. But somewhere along the line, they took that little nugget of you're not good enough, and they just embedded it, and it's there. And that's making decisions for them. That bias that they're not even aware of you don't belong here. I had a client one time who is a speaker and gets on stage regularly, and had huge anxiety about getting on stage. And it went back to an issue. He was at a wedding and he was like 11, and his dad, he was up on stage, playing with the band, just messing around. And his dad was like, you don't belong here. You don't belong on stage. And he didn't at the wedding. But that little nugget stuck with him. And when he got up on stage as an adult, 50-something-year-old man, to give a speech, there was that little bias in his mind that said, you don't belong here. And we have those, and they're rampant throughout, and everybody has them, whether that we believe we don't belong here, we believe that we're not quite good enough, we believe that a certain person should have more information, or they should teach me in a certain way, or this is what this person in this position should be doing, whether it's they should be supporting me, or they should be staying away, or this is what a leader is, and this is what a mentor is. All of those ideas that we have, that's our humanity. It's not like I don't have any biases. Nobody doesn't have any biases. Unless you're the Buddha or Jesus, you don't have a clear no biases. Everybody does. And those biases can be positive in this positive light too, where, oh, she's so amazing. I could never be like that she's just, and putting people up, or positivity, or whatever those are. But those make our decisions for us until we're aware of them. And it shows up in the workplace a lot because we're under stress, because we're performing, we're being a lot of times evaluated, which comes into our hearts as judged. And those things feel really harsh. And so this work that I do is help people get to those places, discover what those are, and discover if they need to be tweaked or changed. Because our system, our emotional operating system, comes up with those biases to help us, to help divert us towards positive things so that we know which direction to go. And if we have things that are misaligned, then we get diverted off our track. And all we need to do is just go in and make the tweak and the change, and then they serve us really well.
Right. Yeah, it's so true and so multi-layered, and it takes some effort. It takes some work to really get in touch and understand this. But as you and I have seen, when you do that work and you are aware and connected and you align, where you want to go with the work that you're doing, or maybe I should say it vice versa, the work that you're doing with where you want to go, the results are amazing. And this is a very general and easy, but I want, just for the sake of the conversation, and I think I thought back to some examples in my career where some men I worked with who wanted an answer or a solution right away. Some women I worked with wanted to actually sit down and dive into the details and discuss more options and talk about questions and think things through and through. And again, a little bit of a generalization, but you see this kind of activity in the workplace, and here's my interpretation of it. Neither in and of itself is wrong or bad. But what happens is when people have different perspectives or ways they believe in doing something or prefer to do something, and then they intersect, and they're different and they're not aligned, it causes static or confusion or frustration. And we want to help you and I and the other amazing people who are going to take part in this event that night. We want to help people understand not how to like fix or remedy or necessarily change. If you like to go step by step through a solution before rolling it out, great. Don't necessarily change that. We want to help you think about understanding the other perspective in a way that's going to solution everything and enhance your career and just up-level yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are some generalizations between men and women, like you said, and there's some that break the stereotype. But what those come from is where we think, I guess I should say the problem comes in when we make judgments about why somebody else makes that decision. So when somebody says that they want to talk it through, when somebody else says, well, we just need to make a decision, let's go. The one person who wants to talk it through is like, well, you don't even care about my opinion. See, that's where the bias comes in. That's where the judgment comes in. That's where the defensiveness comes in. That's coming from themselves. And this person says, you just want to talk through everything. Can we just make a freaking decision, right? So, and that's their bias about, well, if we just take action, let's just take action and that'll solve it. And that's their bias and that's their stuff coming up. And so understanding your own stuff, again, this is because this is my work, but understanding your own stuff and where it comes from helps you to get that perspective and that emotional intelligence on where the other person's coming from. So instead of feeling automatically my defensiveness, you're not listening to me, you don't care about my opinion, you just write me off all the time. Instead of having something like that come up, I can see that person and I can see that they are anxious to get something done. That person is ready to take action, and I can ask a question instead of going, fine. I can ask a question and I can say, what is your timeline on this? Or what is most important to you now? And that, a little tiny change, makes all the difference in the conversation. When you feel heard for wanting to move quickly, and I feel understood that, you know, I would like to kind of explore my own opinion a bit before we, you know, move on. And just having that everybody being heard and understood makes a huge, and it was 2 seconds worth of little change in the conversation, but it comes from understanding ourselves that that's able to happen.
I've had females that I've either spoken with in a group setting or worked with one-on-one who have told me that that's one of their biggest, and you just called it out. It being heard is one of their biggest frustrations at times, not all the time and not for every woman, but it happens. And a lot of us are aware of that. And I think that's such great, applicable, actionable advice or perspective at least. And I know you would do a little bit more deeper dive work to help somebody with that, but that's the kind of thing we want to draw out of this, both next Wednesday night on March 28th and in future work is help people learn how they can be heard more. Because once, as you know, as human beings, we're wired, we want to be seen and we want to be heard.
Absolutely. That's so very true. And it starts with respecting ourselves, you know, respecting who we are, knowing that we are worthy. And if we're always looking to somebody else to validate our worth, then we'll always be looking and we'll always not feel like enough. So that's part of what I do when I help people. Like you said, I would take a deeper dive. So what I would do with somebody who is constantly running into those kind of same repeating patterns, which one of my mentors told me that if something's repeating in your life, you're causing it, which was a really, really hard pill for me to swallow. But it's quite true that if something is repeating in your life, you are causing it. You're causing it, allowing it, creating it. And so when people come to me and have those issues, this is something that's going on and on, I help them discover what are you doing and where is it coming from that you are creating this situation. So if you're creating the situation of people not listening to you and running over you and you know, over like people say mansplaining, like, a woman says something and then a man just says the exact same thing over top of her. If that's coming up, where is that coming from the woman's standpoint? What is she doing that is creating that? And then working backwards, and why is that a thing? So, for example, if a woman is saying, people are always just repeating what I say and taking credit for it. So if you listen to their conversations, sometimes they'll be saying, well, so I was wondering, what do you think about if, and there's all of this kind of precursor to their opinion, where other people in the room, men, women, whatever, will just state their opinion. So this woman who's saying, well, I think, and I was wondering, what about, she's diminishing herself. And so she's creating that situation of, somebody please restate this clearly for me. And that comes from her own value in herself about, well, I don't think that I should be able to just speak up and say my opinion. That just feels so abrupt, and like I might offend somebody, or I don't feel valuable enough to say to the CEO, I don't think so. Right? Like I don't have enough confidence to do that. But she's creating that situation of somebody speaking over her. So is it true that somebody's speaking over her? Yes. And she can look at that and say, that's not me, that's them doing that. But really, she's creating that in the subtext of how she's behaving.
Let's draw out an example of something that a man may typically do. And we'll go through this and then we'll wind down. And that was great input in those situations. You actually took it to a whole other level that I never thought of, because sometimes we don't even need to distinguish always between male and female. Men, as you know, and you acknowledged, men do that too.
Oh, absolutely.
I, for a long time, until I had confidence, would qualify a lot of my statements. And I can tell you, and I can tell everybody who sees this video, and I will say it that night too at our event, it impacted my career. Why? What is your take on, and let's give just a teaser or a semblance or a sampling of something that you would help a man with in this situation. Why do a lot of men, and again, this is somewhat of a generalization, but for the sake of this conversation, a man who doesn't want to ask for directions, okay? And let me just get through this. The whole notion of men who don't ask for directions when they're driving. Well, in the workplace, a lot of times men won't ask questions and they won't ask for directions. And I've heard some great analysis and input on this. In fact, I recently had a conversation with a woman who explained to me that for men, we want to maintain our role at the top of the pecking order. And the moment we're asking for help, we're making ourselves vulnerable and we slide down in the pecking order. Mm-hmm. How can we help men with that and say it's okay to ask for directions?
Well, I think it's true. And like you said, it's true not just generally for men, but it's true for women too. It's a personality thing, not so much a gender thing. But there is this, a lot of times, again, when we're growing up, a lot of times there's things that are instilled in us along gender lines. So a dad that will say to his son, buck up, just do it. Or to not show emotion, or don't be a sissy, or whatever. And so there are these beliefs that get instilled, and that's why a lot of times they're along gender lines, is because they're from past generations that weren't as emotionally intelligent, that instilled those within us and that we still carry around. So it's true that it can be general, but there's this feeling when we have this power, this need for power and this need to show our power. A lot of times that comes from a lack of feeling powerful and solid in ourselves. So we're trying to show power. And when we're trying to show power, we want everybody to know, I'm in charge, I got it. So somebody will say, this is the way we want to do this. And I'll start to explain it. And then they'll go, I got it. Nope, it's fine. I got it. You don't need to tell me. And then they will go and then they will struggle on their own and not let anybody see it. And that just comes from this sense of, I need to be able to show that I'm strong. And if I show my weaknesses, I will go down in the ladder. I will not be as powerful. But the truth of it is, and I think everybody can speak to this, when somebody comes out and says, so Scott, I didn't totally understand that. Can you give me a little bit more explanation? You're an expert in this area. That builds you up, and it shows that I'm willing to learn. It shows that I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to take on other people's expertise and learn for myself. And that is a way bigger leadership skill than knowing everything. Nobody can know everything. It's impossible. You can't, you're not Google, so you can't know everything. And so when we do that, when we put ourselves up to that space of, no, I got it, I don't need to know that, then what we're really doing is we're setting ourselves up to fail and for people to say, see, you're not good enough, which is really what we're holding inside ourselves. I don't want people to know that I'm not quite good enough. And yet, again, we're creating that situation with that belief. We're creating that situation to happen. I'm over and over and over creating that I'm not good enough because I have that belief by saying, no, I don't need help. And then I set myself up that I kind of do. So we repeat those patterns. And it's, like I said, it's crazy. It really is an insane place to be. But it just goes to show how deeply ingrained those beliefs are. Absolutely.
And I think if we call these out collectively together and do it in multiple forums with men and women together, and it's partly getting the different perspectives, but it's also just acknowledging together. I think that in and of itself is going to be so much value for people to hear. And it's hard work, and to even understand what you just explained about why a man or a woman for that matter might withhold questions when they really need to ask them. Mm-hmm. But just getting a flavor of that, and the next time you see it as an outsider, you see somebody do that, think of how much that could help for yourself in your career, instead of judging in the worst way possible or writing somebody off or just saying this person, this man or this woman is going to be awful to work with or work for. Maybe we come from a place of understanding, and maybe we even can extend ourselves to help that person even more. Those are some of the lessons and value that I really want to get out of this event and future work that you and I and other people do to help people in their career.
Absolutely, because if somebody after this training sees somebody sort of in that power stance, I got it, I don't need any help, it would be good to see that and know where that seed comes from. And then just later to be able to throw in a compliment. I really admire how well you do that. Thank you for doing that so well. And to just notice how a little nugget will build somebody up and accept them and embrace them instead of resisting them. Because when we resist people, they resist back. And when we accept people, then that tension is gone. But you're so right. It goes both ways across. And it really is a personality thing. It's not a gender thing. And that's one of the things that I get disappointed in when I hear a lot of these conversations about men and women, is because we're just creating more and more division and saying, well, this is the way they are because they are a woman, or this is the way they are because they are a man. And it's not about creating that division. It's about creating the unity of knowing how all of these traits can be present in anyone, and just recognizing the trait itself and how to work with that trait, how to recognize the traits in yourself, and how to overcome some of your biases so that you can better work with other people. This is amazing stuff. I cannot wait. March 28th.
how men and women can better understand each other in the workplace, Scottsdale, Arizona, and Rebecca MacLean, who is going to be one of several coaches and or leaders, executives, business owners who will be there to help you all become better leaders of yourselves and better coworkers. Rebecca, you've inspired me, as we build on this work, maybe what we do is we get to a point, we are so good at this topic, and by so good, I mean we're helping people, we're effective. We drop the men and women out of the title and say how we help people better understand each other in the workplace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. I can't wait for this event. It's going to be so fantastic.
It is. I'll see you in a few days. Thank you very much. And for those of you who are not in Arizona or just not in Arizona next week, Rebecca and I will be following up with this work in other locations in 2018 and beyond, because it means a lot to us. We have our individual coaching practices, but we also know that to make an impact and scale, not for ourselves, but to make a broader impact, doing this in these kind of forums in the workplace, which is such a big part of our life. Let's help people in that environment. Rebecca, actually, before we wrap really quickly, so where can people find you? How can they find you online?
I am at MacLeanLifeCoaching.com, and MacLean is spelled MacLean, lifecoaching.com. And I do personal sessions with people, and I also teach people how to find their own blocks and how to resolve them themselves. So all good stuff.
Great.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this event, because I'm super excited about it.
You're welcome. Thanks for being part of it. And Rebecca's fantastic. So check her out online and connect with her if you can. Rebecca, thanks for your time. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.